Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night from wherever you're watching in the world. Hello and welcome to round number 6 of the Gavra Racing GT7 League. Season 7, round 6, I should add, here in Croatia at Dragon Trail Gardens. First time going round this circuit on this game, but it's not the first time we've been to this track in the GT League. So we've been to it once forwards and once backwards. It's now time to add another one to the forwards direction. Let's get into today's race, but before we do that, let's start by diving straight into the qualifying results from the 15-minute qualifying, which quickly turns into a 5-minute sprint, but you'll soon see why later. Starting at the back of the grid, as I now normally do, we've got Cameron Kaboom, who made a risk in qualifying. It didn't quite work for him. He starts 13th out of 13th in today's race. Alongside him, Black Country Mush in the Mercedes starts in 12th. And just ahead of him, he's got the other teammate of Wiggly Style in a bit of a sandwich between those two cars. He starts in 11th place. In 10th place, we have Fett in his green and yellow Porsche. Just ahead of him in 9th, we've got Aston F1 in the Golf Ford GT, back to his default standard colours after running his special livery a couple of races ago in Spa. 8th place is contested by Wolfie 907 in his green Alfa Romeo. Just ahead of him is the Doctor in the famous BWT Mercedes. Starts in I think a season best fit start of 7th place. Ex-Natty G, myself in the Kiwi McLaren, starts in 6th place. Only 5/10 separating the top 10, the top 5, sorry, top 6. In the top 5, Piero in the McLaren, 3/10 off pole, starts in 5th place. Meanwhile, Play Dutchy starts in 4th in the second row of the grid, and 1,000th quicker than him in qualifying. Toussaint in the BCR Mercedes car starts 3rd place, but on the front row of the grid, his teammate Tiger Assassin in the Porsche, and just ahead of him, only a 10th between them in qualifying, Bon Evil 99 in the red and white Alfa Romeo. And here is your class of 2023, essentially. The 13 drivers that will be tackling the challenging bends and the sausage chicanes of Dragon Trail Gardens. But only one of them can win the race. Let's find out who can claim victory here in Croatia. I haven't got any stats. That's really bad. So we'll have to go without the stats for today's race. But it's round number 6, season 7. Here at Dragon Trail Gardens, we've got 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go for the Croatian Grand Prix. Bon Evil starting this race on the intermediate tyres. Maybe he knows something we don't, because Toussaint's off to a good start. Dutch in 3rd place already. Natty and Piero 3 wide with Tiger on the inside. In the background, the Frenchman trying to sweep it around the outside of a couple of cars. The McLaren side by side now with the Porsche as they go through the first chicane. Toussaint in the lead. Tiger going for a move down the inside of Bon Evil. Natty trying to follow him through. The Doctor making it 3 wide on the exit of turn 3. Natty up into 5th. Tiger down to 4th place. Piero with a good start. Gains 2 positions up to 5th place, but it's Toussaint who leads this race by a couple of tenths over Play Dutchy. Tiger now sending one down the inside of Piero, nearly hitting the back of the Porsche in front. Piero with the old switcheroo now makes his way up into 3rd place as they go side by side. In the background, Black Country Mush going wheel to wheel with Wiggly Style now as he heads to the inside line and gets the move done up into 10th place for the Brits. Toussaint starting to get a nice early advantage in this race. Tiger in 4th place, running ahead of Natty, and Wolfie in 6th place. The Doctor in 7th, just about keeping Cameron Kaboom, almost pushing the Mercedes through the Turkey-style triple right-hander. And that's Fett wide through whatever corner it is. I'll find it in a minute. But Bon Evil and Aston dropping to 12th and 11th place after starting on the intermediates. Toussaint on the softs, Dutchy, Piero, everyone seemingly on the soft compound tyres because they've got their weather radars on, checking to see if there's any rain on the way. You can see the clouds looming large over the mountains in the background as Toussaint finishes lap 1 in the lead of the race after starting 3rd on the grid. Cameron Kaboom now to the inside of the Doctor in towards the first corner, gets the move done up into 7th place. back up to the leaders. Dutchy getting a little bit out of shape on the exit of turn 3. Going purple to the first sector, although everyone's purple to the first sector, as it's the second lap of the race. The only two I could imagine aren't going purple are the guys who are overheating their intermediate tyres as the sun shines on the circuit. But for how much longer? There's clouds approaching the track, drivers with their weather radars on, looking for those blue and green pixels indicating the severity of the rain. But the front three putting out about a second gap to Tiger and Natty in 4th and 5th place. Cameron Kaboom keeping up with them as well as Wolfie's dropped down to 7th. Cameron Kaboom's made his way up into 6th place after getting ahead of the Irishman, as the Doctor's going to slow down for a second to serve that time penalty, as Dutchy now catching up to the back of the Mercedes. Taking two different lines, interestingly, through the final corner, one tighter, one slightly narrower, as Toussaint's going to try and squeeze Dutchy over to the pit wall. Can't quite make it defensively to the inside, although Dutchy, with the straight line speed deficit he has in the Porsche, just backs out of it slightly, although the door is left wide open on the inside. They are wheel to wheel now through turn 1 here on lap 3. The battle for the lead of the race, and Dutchy takes it. Natty in the background with a move on the inside of Tiger Assassin sees him gaining 2 positions in the opening 3 laps, as Cameron Kaboom really riding the sausage curb on the exit of turn 3, one that is really easy to do, and you can lose lots of time if you get it wrong, but gain it if you get it right. Toussaint a little bit too late on the brakes as he tries to go down the inside and play Dutchy in towards the hairpin, but Dutchy gets the switchback move done and he's up into 1st place, but with a 1 second time penalty. The Doctor dropping through the order as Black Country Mush now going wheel to wheel. The 2 Mercedes side by side through the middle sector, the twisty technical part of the circuit. Looks like the Doctor's got himself up in front of that one. Toussaint sees an open door and walks right through it on the inside of play Dutchy through the triple right-hander. These two wheel to wheel side by side, the only Gran Turismo champions in the league, as Dutchy slows down to serve a half a second penalty. Is this going to allow Piero to maybe challenge for the lead of the race, as he's now promoted up into 2nd place? But you can see the 2 cars going slightly wider than Play Dutchy through the final corner. Does mean they will get a slightly better exit. But Piero's into the pits already. Piero into the pit at the end of lap 3, and it's getting very overcast here in Croatia. Natty up into a podium position. Tiger now P4. Cameron Kaboom in P5, ahead of Wolfie in P6. But just look how far behind Aston's fallen off the back of the pack. Piero's in the pits, and Wiggenstyle spotted him in as well. Looks like they're going to come out ahead of Aston before it even starts raining. And look at the wear to the rear compound of the rear intermediate tyres, screaming for mercy as the rain still hasn't hit the circuit. The first indicators when the wipers automatically switch on. Toussaint's gone deep into the hairpin, getting caught out by the tailwind down the back straight. Fortunately for him, it's enough that he can keep the lead of the race. It's now just a waiting game for the rain to come. All the drivers starting on the soft compound tyres, which we're not normally used to seeing. The wipers are starting to wave, well, they certainly are on the McLaren. They're not quite yet on the Porsche or the Lexus behind. They haven't even got their lights on. The McLaren's already turned its lights on. Now the Porsche and the Mercedes have their headlights on, and the wipers are wiping the rain off the windscreen. That is their primary use. But you can physically see now the rain thundering down on the circuit. Are we going to see any early pit stops? Toussaint's in, Dutchy's in, Natty's also in, Tiger got to follow them in. Everyone coming into the pits at the end of lap 4. Does Wolfie pit? Does he stay out? Comes into the pits, but I think he might have just crossed the white line on entrance, so we'll get a 3-second time penalty. Everyone diving it into the pits. Meanwhile, Piero pitting a lap earlier on the intermediate tyres. Let's see what progress he can make. Oh, Dutchy and Toussaint coming out of the pits. Natty, Tiger also out of the pits ahead of Piero. The undercut attempt hasn't quite worked for him. The rain hasn't come quicker than he was hoping for. I should say as quick as he was hoping for. But now we finally get to see some wet racing action here in the league. The last time it rained where it wasn't in the rules was the first mini-season race, round 1, season 1, in the Nürburgring GP, where it rained on lap 14 and absolutely poured down. Meanwhile, we've got slightly nicer conditions for the early part of this race. The grit meter just above the first third, indicating that it is time to switch onto the green striped intermediate tyres. Dutch and Toussaint getting rather close to one another as they make their way through the tricky technical middle part of the circuit. Some say that the wet weather in motor racing determines the men, or splits the men from the boys. We're about to see how that has an impact on these drivers here tonight. Specifically looking at the battle for the lead of the race between the two German manufacturers. Dutchy trying to go for a move down the inside in towards the penultimate corner, into the double left-hander. Leaves Toussaint enough room on the outside. They're still side by side, wheel to wheel. Toussaint, having taken the outside line, now tucks back into the slipstream of Play Dutchy. Meanwhile, I think that's Piero getting ahead of Wolfie, now up into 6th place, but up front the leaders now going side by side down in towards the first corner. Toussaint on the inside, actually trying to hold it round the outside. The Porsche, with the grip that it has, the natural downforce, able to hold it round the outside, beautifully executed from Dutchy. He now takes the lead of the race ahead of the Season 6 and Season 1 champion. Toussaint taking a lot of curb on the exit. Turn 3, Dutchy getting a little bit out of shape on the exit of turn 3, and that can leave him vulnerable to the chasing Mercedes behind, as Toussaint going to send one down the inside. Not on this occasion. Brakes nice and early, doesn't want to go into the back of that Porsche. Meanwhile, Natty keeping up with the two cars behind. Toussaint drifting his way through turn 4. Tiger as well, not too far off the race leader. Wolfie looked like he's gone a little bit deep in towards the hairpin. The Doctor's also gone fairly deep. That could allow Black Country Mush to go for a move down the inside, and the Brit gets up into 8th place ahead of the Doctor. They were side by side at this part of the track in the dry. Now they're wheel to wheel in the wet as well. You can see the grit meter nearly getting up. In fact, it is into the full wet tyre conditions. The dark blue in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, the rain appearing to be much heavier in the middle part of the circuit, or in the northern part of the track. I think we've had a position change, or at least something's flashed up. Wolfie drifting his way through the exit of the triple right-hander. So is Play Dutchy, not Play Dutchy, Black Country Mush. How I got those two mixed up, I have absolutely no idea. But what I was going to say is, speaking of Play Dutchy, taking the lead of the race from Toussaint, who's now under pressure from Natty. They last had their wheel-to-wheel battle in Spa, now one race later when they're both on the grid again after missing the Nürburgring. The drivers from 2nd to 3rd and 4th place both missed the last race in the Nürburgring. You can see the spray being thrown up through the first corner. Visibility not particularly great as you ride on board in the cockpit of the McLaren. The sound of the rain thundering against the windscreen on the McLaren. He's got a good run on the Mercedes in front. Piero trying to look for a move on Cameron Kaboom as they make their way down the back straight in towards the hairpin. One of the best overtaking opportunities at this circuit. Toussaint's gone for it, late on the brakes, too late on the brakes. He's gone to say hello to his fans in the grandstand. Meanwhile, this could allow Natty to go for it on the inside, but the Brit not close enough to capitalise on the opportunity, but will be putting that Mercedes under a lot more pressure, being closer, tucked up nicely in the spray. I say nicely in the spray, it's not exactly what you want as a driver. Back to riding on board. Toussaint's got a little bit wide. Natty's taking a narrower line. Is this Natty's opportunity to get up into 2nd place and overtake his fellow Premier Series champion? Toussaint's gone wide, and that's the Mercedes now. The McLaren down the inside. Toussaint drifting sideways. He's still sideways, and he's gone. He's in the grass and he's in the barrier. Just about misses his teammate, but Cameron Kaboom, Piero, all coming through that part of the track now, and that is Toussaint round and off. Down at the triple right-hander, down to 7th place. Huge and unfortunate for him. Was running in what was a really good position. It was P2, not too far off Play Dutchy, but maybe it was the pressure of the better Premier Series champion that just got to him, forcing a mistake. But we know Toussaint's got the pace. For those who have tuned into previous streams, He's not a two-time champion for no reason. Pierre now down the inside of Cameron Kaboom and towards the first corner. Can he make this move stick, or is the Lexus going to make it more of a challenge in these heavy wet conditions? Wolfie now trying to go down the inside of Cameron Kaboom and towards turn 2. But Wolfie can't quite make anything of it. Pierre now up into 4th place, 1 position higher than he started. Dutchy with about a 2-second advantage over Natty G in 2nd, and Tiger running in 3rd place after starting in 2nd. And I think the biggest gainer in this race is Marcus Armstrong after starting in 6th and now moving up into 2nd place. We've got a nice 3-way fight for 4th place. Cameron Kaboom ahead of Wolfie. Toussaint not too far behind this battle, maybe 5 or 6 seconds. The Doctor's wide again at the hairpin, just not able to find his braking point. Down at turn 5. As we've got Fett in 10th place, ahead of Wiggly Star in 11th. Bon Evil down in 12th place after the gamble of starting on the Inters. Not working well for him, nor is it working for Aston, who looks like he's tiptoeing through the hairpin. The rear tyres on those intermediates have really overheated and suffered whilst during the dry running. The first 3 laps have really destroyed those intermediate tyres. There's a gamble worth taking, but one that really hasn't paid off. It's all about being on the right tyre at the right time. Dutchy starts lap number 9 in the lead of this race. We're 25% of the way through round number 6 already. We've got a nice 4-way battle for the final spot on the podium, although there's plenty of laps left in this race. Tiger leading this train of Piero. Cameron Kaboom, who's going for a move on the McLaren, thought about it in towards the 2nd corner. Wolfie just tucked up behind, having a look to see where he can size up an opportunity to overtake a couple of cars. And in these wet conditions, anything can happen. Really throw up some unpredictable results, as you can see the ocean in the background. As Cameron Kaboom's going for it on Piero, who's gone for it on Tiger Assassin. Cameron and Piero have both gone deep, and Tiger with this switchback move. Wolfie as well, gaining 2 positions in 2 corners. Piero and Cameron overshooting it in the braking point. One went for a move on the other, who went for a move on someone else, and it didn't really work well for neither of them. And Tiger and Wolfie just said thank you very much and walked on through that wide open door that was pretty much knocked down by Piero and Cameron Kaboom, who have now dropped to 5th and 6th respectively. And all this battling is allowing Toussaint to catch up to this chasing pack of cars. You can see on the mini-map the high cluster of arrows, of blue arrows. We've still got plenty of close battles out on the circuit. Riding on board with the Mercedes AMG of Black Country Mush as he chases down the Doctor. He's overtaken him 2 or 3 times in this race already, but he seems to still find himself behind the pink Mercedes as he gets a massive snap in the braking zone of the 5 penultimate corner, turn 13. Meanwhile, back up to the leaders, or the front runners I should say. Tiger running in the podium position, but is under pressure from Wolfie. The track is drying up as the rain has stopped 10 laps into this race. Those are the great results for Wolfie so far. Qualified 4th in Spa, but they didn't quite get off to the best of starts. And they had quite the vice versa result in the Nürburgring, poor qualifying for him. But I found some race pace as here goes Pierre now to the inside, down at turn 5 as well, not to hit the back of Tiger in front, and a little bit of contact as I think Cameron Kaboom hits the back of the Alfa Romeo. But Wolfie now down to 5th place, but good showing for the Irishman. Toussaint on a comeback drive through the field after his spin down at turn 11 and 12, dropping him 5 positions from 2nd to 7th, which is now being contested by ex-Natty G, who's fallen touches with Play Dutch in this race, about 5 seconds after 10 laps, so only half a second a lap splitting the top 2. But a race where the Porsche is probably one of the favoured cars at this circuit, maybe the McLaren as well. Tyre wear and degradation is high for this circuit. Cameron Kaboom trying to move his way up the field with an extra position. He does this by going down the inside of Wolfie towards the final corner after the Alfa Romeo runs a little bit wide. And Natty's into the pit off of the intermediate tyres. This will be for dries. What dries? It looks like a yellow medium compound tyres, but if you're an F1 fan, that is not the case. Those are just Pirelli compound tyres. It looks like Tiger's on the hards and Piero's on the hypers, or whatever the pink tyre was, but it's just the colour of the tyres. We'll have to wait and see what Natty goes on to, but the first driver into the pits and out on a set of the medium compound tyres. Bonnie was also in off of the Inters after starting the race on those tyres. Gavra hasn't worked for him, nor Aston, but we'll see where they finish in this race. Now this is going to be interesting. The dry tyres on a wet track. Can Natty close down the gap to Tiger, Cameron Kaboom and Piero? Extend his gap to these cars. As Piero's now up in the second place after getting ahead of Tiger Assassin in the Porsche. Wolfie just dropping off the back of the Lexus ever so slightly, maybe a second separating those two drivers. Toussaint promoted to 6th place and gaining on the cars in front of him. But you can see in the bottom left hand corner of the screen the grip meter indicating how much standing water is on the circuit. It's just dropping below the first bar, which is often an indicator. We've got a car round in the final sector. In the first sector, it's Bon Evil who's gone onto the hard compound tyres. Interesting selection, maybe trying to go to the end of the race on those hards. And Dutchie is into the pits, the race leader, in off the intermediate compound tyres. I'm going to extreme. A lot of these drivers are going to be into their pits. Piero stays out. Tiger, Cameron, Wolfie and Toussaint all into the pits. The Doctor wide at the final corner does come into the pits. Black Country Mush comes into the pits, and Natty of course stays out because he's on the medium compound tyres. Looking to the left hand side of the screen, where are they? They're still in the pits. A little bit of fuel for Tiger Assassins. He now exits the pit lane. Sideways for Cameron Kaboom! Incredible stuff for him. Did you see that? He was practically facing the wall as he's being flung out. Wolfie's got a 3-second time penalty. Synchronised drifting for the two of them. That was incredible. Did you see that? That was amazing. The Doctor and Wolfie sideways, perpendicular to the racing line, on the exit of the pit lane, putting the foot down too quickly, too soon, on the wet part of the track. Obviously the inside of turn 1 hasn't seen much action, so there's still a lot of standing water. That was unbelievable from the two drivers. And Black Country Mush going through that was seeing the side pod of two cars. I think we should get a replay of that. Let's get a replay of that. That was unbelievable. We'll do it with on Black Country Mush's point of view as he exits the pit lane. Look at that! 3 cars, in fact. There was a Black Country Mush involved in that. I didn't even realise. That was unbelievable. Fair dues to those 3 drivers for keeping it out of the barrier. Hats off to those drivers. That's got to be the moment of the season. I thought Black Country Mush pitted on the opening lap, on the previous lap, and was coming through. Oh, we got a car round. It's Fett, who's in the barrier on the wet compound tyres, still staying out on those tyres, struggling to find reverse. Yellow flags being waved. That's going to be hands down the best pit lane exit we've ever seen. Piero sideways through turn 11, staying out on those intermediate tyres, and you can see how much wear they have received after staying out with track conditions really drying up quite quickly in these warm conditions. As Piero's into the pits, it's going to promote Natty up into second place. Cameron Kaboom now will be running in third. Tiger Assassin in fifth. Where will Piero filter out among these drivers? I'm going to assume it will be behind. Oh, we've got a car round. It's Toussaint who's in the wall again. I don't usually do this, but we might as well make the most of being on the ring. Oh, we've got a car round. It's the Doctor. He's in the wall. A lot of drivers struggling in these changeable conditions. But after Toussaint dipped a wheel onto the curb in the grass, and that's what sent him off the round, facing backwards in the wall. The marshal waving the wrong colour flag. But that's a massive disappointment for Toussaint. Piero actually comes out of the pits, not as sideways as the cars behind, but ahead of the cars behind. Those tyres are going to be cold. Oh, Cameron's off and in the wall. What is happening in these changeable conditions? So many drivers making mistakes, dipping wheels onto the wet part of the circuit. This is the challenge now
of changeable conditions, trying to keep your tyres on the dry part of the circuit. Use as left curb as you can. Tiger side by side, door to door, wheel to wheel with Piero down the back straight and run down towards turn 5. The Porsche with the inside line, late on the brakes. Can he slow it down in time? Indeed he does. Piero's going to try something on the exit, but isn't quite close enough to challenge on the exit of 5. This race has had lots of action in it already, and we're only on lap 13 of 36. Just over a third of the way through the race, too safe on the medium compound tyres. Appears to be struggling to grip. The track is still fairly damp off the racing line. As Dutchy starts lap 14 in the lead, a beautiful camera shot of his bright orange, black and white Porsche making his way through the first corner for the 14th time in this race. Natty in second place, running in his best position of the season so far. Tiger now running in the podium position ahead of Piero. Toussaint now ahead of Black Country Mush, who's had a poor run on the exit of the final corner, struggling to put the foot down for grip on those medium compound tyres. Interestingly, some drivers have gone for a different selection of tyre. Wiggity Styles finally into the pits off of those intermediate tyres. He stayed out all this time to lap 13. Yes, a diverse choice and tyre strategy with the mediums. Toussaint, Cameron Kaboom also on the mediums. Piero and Tiger, interestingly, have gone for the soft compound tyres, so maybe they might try and stretch it for another set of soft compound tyres, or pit a little bit earlier and go on to the mediums to see out the end of this race. But Natty on the mediums and Dutchy leading this race has opted for the softs. So Natty's going to be a sitting duck in this race when Tiger and Piero catch up to the back of that McLaren, if they catch up to the back of that McLaren before the scheduled pit stops. I hear tyres screaming, I hear tyres spinning as Cameron Kaboom has dropped it again at the triple right-hander, and he's facing the wrong direction in the wall. It's not the first time he's had a spin in these changeable conditions. Will it be the last? We've got someone else round, and it's Wolfie off in the wall. 2 cars in one corner. That doesn't sound like a great... That doesn't... I don't really want to watch that, to be honest. That doesn't sound all too exciting. A lot of mistakes being made in this race, not only in the wet but also the dry. The changeable conditions proving to be a challenge for a lot of these drivers. Bonnie and Aston up into 9th and 10th after starting on the inters, and a gamble that didn't quite pay off. But a gamble that did quite pay off. There was Piero pitting early and late for those intermediate tyres. I say it paid off. He's down into 4th place, although he started in 5th, so he's technically up into 4th place, although he was running fairly high up the... No, he wasn't. He dropped down a couple of positions at the start. Ignore me. Hello, welcome to everyone tuning into Season 7, Round number 6, here of the Gavra Racing Gran Turismo Championship here in Croatia. Oh, we've got someone round at Turn 1. It's Wolfie off again. The tyres are literally on fire. Smoke being kicked up through the rear tyres, although that could have been standing water that's still on the curb. But plenty of mistakes being made in these challenging conditions. You put 1 foot wrong and you're off into the barrier. Really, really hard to save it when you lose it. Now we don't need to write that song in Fuji about the rain that never came from Spa. Although, if the viewers still want the song about the rain that never came, then, you know, give the people what they want. For those who didn't watch these race in Spa 2 weeks ago, it was supposed to rain and never rained. But we've got plenty of rain here tonight. Lap 16 of 36, 21 laps to go. Cameron Kaboom under pressure from Toussaint, the 2 Brits running in 5th and 6th place in this race. On board with the Mercedes as we make their way through a still fairly damp Turn 1. Run wide and you're going to put a wheel onto the wet stuff, and then it's game over from there. Marshall waving the green flag on the right hand side of the track. You can just see the spray there and the water that's still standing on the exit of the chicanes. Toussaint's got a good run though on Cameron with the boom. He took a little bit too much curb on the inside of turn 4. Is that going to cost him into the hairpin? Is Toussaint going to send one to the inside? No, not on this lap, but you can see where Toussaint's hit the wall. The front left taking the knock. A couple of dents in the paintwork. But our closest battle on track, the battle for 5th place and the battle for 3rd. Tiger and Piero trying to close that gap down to the McLaren, who they can see going through the penultimate corner now. The Kiwi McLaren staying ahead of the BCR Porsche for now, as well as the McLaren, driven by Piero, who's taken a couple of podiums thus far this season, moved up into 2nd place in the standings after last week's race in the Nürburgring. 4 points ahead of Bon Evil, and as it stands will continue to increase that advantage. But interestingly, our battle in the Drivers' Championship are also correlating with the battles that we currently have on the circuit. Tiger and Piero battling for, well, 3rd place on the road. Having said that, actually, 1 second and 1's 8th in the standings. Tiger having a tricky start to season 7 after being taken out twice in Sardinia, missing the Nürburgring. I've forgotten what round 3 was. Brands Hatch. I have a good race at Brands Hatch. I haven't actually got any stats up. I'm so unprepared for this. At the time of recording, we have literally just finished this race. It's 10 past 10 here in the UK. We finished this race a couple of minutes ago. Well, 17 laps ago, plus 5 minutes of chit-chat with a few of the drivers. One of them has picked up a 5/10 penalty somewhere in the 1st sector, running in 8th place. As Bon Evil and Aston not too far behind them. Play Dutchy extending his lead in this race. The first time he went to this circuit back in season 2, he dominated. This was the first race that I believe Dutchy completely dominated the race. I think it was the biggest winning margin at the time. He continues to extend his advantage on Natty in 2nd place, who is on the soft compound medium compound tyres. Everyone else around him on the quicker, fresher softs, and will be lapping a lot quicker. Tiger and Piero battling for 3rd place. Cameron Baboon doing his best to keep Toussaint behind the halfway phase of the race, lap 18 of 36. Make sure, guys, if you're not already, please subscribe to the Twitch if you have Prime, or if you want to subscribe, that would be mostly appreciated. And head over to the YouTube channel as well, Gavra Racing, and make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of this spins and drama as we've had on the exit of turn 4. Bon Evil round, but facing the right direction. Might get overtaken by Aston F1, who's gaining and is alongside and is now ahead, going in towards the hairpin down at turn 5. But a race to forget for Bon Evil. It's not exactly gone the way he would have imagined it to have been. More points dropped in the championship after a promising start in the Red Bull Ring in Sardinia, where the Alfa Romeo was undoubtedly the car suited for that track out of the cars that are aligned on this grid. But since then, it's not exactly gone to plan for him. The contacts in Spa, in Brands Hatch, the spin in Spa, the running wide onto the gravel in the Nürburgring. And to add salt in the wounds, a couple of spins here tonight, and a gamble that didn't quite pay off, trying to start on the intermediate tyres, but you've got nothing to lose essentially. It's easy to take risks and for them to not go as planned, but you won't know if you don't try. Now it's the lesson for probably all the drivers not to be on the wrong tyres at the wrong time. Someone who's going to soon wish they were on different tyres, as ex-Natty G running in second place on those medium compound tyres. To be fair, they're just as worn as those softs, but they're certainly not as quick. Tiger and Piero are gaining. It's almost like an extended version of the last lap in the Piston Cup, with Lightning McQueen getting 2 rear punctures. In this situation, it's the driver on slower tyres. Inevitably going to get caught at some point. It's just when and how much of a defence does the McLaren put up against the 2 chasing cars behind. Cameron Kaboom still keeping a reasonable margin ahead of the chasing Toussaint behind, who's not been on it as much, not since his spin on, I think it was lap 11. No, not lap 11, that's when it dried up. Maybe lap 7, I think, and lap 8. But this race has absolutely flown by. 32 minutes in already. We're starting to see the drivers converge in on one another. Here goes Toussaint, sending one down the inside of Cameron Kaboom. Cameron goes wide, cuts inside, gets the traction on the exit of the corner, but Toussaint gets the move done and up into 5th place, and a move that he's been looking to do for a couple of laps now, but he finally makes it stick and moves his way into the top 5. The next car on the list is Piero, but quite the way ahead. Maybe about 20 odd seconds, I won't say 20 seconds, maybe 20, 10, 15 seconds. A whole back straight between the 2 cars. Meanwhile, we're about to have a 3-way fight for 2nd place. Only one of these drivers is going to finish off the podium. Which one will it be, and which order will it be? Natty, Tiger and Piero making their way through the first corner as the race leader, Play Dutchie, is already approaching the hairpin down at turn 5. Play Dutchie is absolutely on fire, as he always is, which suggests why his car is orange. It's not actually orange, it's actually blue, but he's going so quickly. And it's on fire. Meanwhile, Cameron Kaboom and Toussaint going side by side through the sausage chicane at turn 2, 3 and 4. Cameron taking them off the sausage on the exit of the 4th corner. That's going to put him under pressure from Toussaint now down the back straight. They've got the wind in their favour. Late on the brakes. Who will be later on the brakes? Toussaint with the inside line. Later on the brakes. Cameron's going to just try and set this one up. Go wide, cut inside, get a good exit. Hasn't quite done that. A bit of a snap of oversteer on the exit of the corner. Sees him back down into 6th place. Meanwhile up front, Gavra's come down lap after lap after lap, maybe a second every lap. 31.7, 32.8 is the difference between the medium and the soft compound tyre. At a track such as Dragon Trail, where it is a technical circuit, there will be an increased time and increased delta between the different tyre compounds, where the soft tyres have so much more grip to offer through the twisty middle sector that Wolfley, Aston, Bon Evil are all making their way through now. Three-way fights for 2nd place is about to get underway as Toussaint keeps Cameron Kaboom behind going through turn 1. Lap 22 of 36. Those medium tyres starting to struggle. Well, they appear to have been struggling for quite a lengthy part of the race. About a second a lap between Natty, Tiger and Piero. Picking up a 5-10 penalty whilst looking for a move on Toussaint. That's not going to help his fight for 5th place. He's going to do his best to try and get ahead before he serves that time penalty. Although anywhere here it's going to be a lunge to the inside, but that's going to be risky and definitely not work. So he's going to be out in that battle for 5th. Meanwhile, we've got a three-way fight now fully commencing for second place. Natty leading Tiger, leading Piero. These drivers who started in 6th, 2nd and 5th find themselves in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. As look at this in the midfield between Wolfie, Aston, nearly one even as well, gaining on that battle. But 3 cars separated by a couple of fingernails going through the first chicane. Riding on board with Tiger Assassin, you can see the McLaren in front of him. You can see Piero behind his little TV in the right hand side corner of the cockpit. As he's gone a little bit wide, a little bit deep, in towards the hairpin. Tiger's got a good run going through the SS section. Look at the closing speed the Porsche has under acceleration compared to that McLaren, it seems. The soft compound tyres really giving that Porsche the extra grip it needs, despite the degradation it has compared to the medium compound tyres on that McLaren. Now we're about to see the defensive driving of ex-Natty G. How does he fight this? Does he just sit behind and give up, or does he go defensive to the inside? Does he work for it, this second place? But he hasn't really fought too much for mistakes from Toussaint, but he's done well to keep it clean and in the wet and in the dry. Now he's got to keep Tiger and Piero behind. This will be a test for him on those medium compound tyres. Here goes Piero, and what's he going to do? Is he going to pull out and try and attack Natty himself, or does he want to let Tiger go for it first? It looks like Piero is actually saving a little bit of fuel while sat behind the McLaren. He probably realises his battle was with these two rather than play Dutchy or any of the cars behind, so he can sit behind and conserve the fuel. Meanwhile, Wolfie and Aston, they always seem to be neck and neck to each other on the circuit in their quest to determine who is the better Group B champion. Both have won it, although when you look at it statistically, one of them won it whilst the other one was also in it, who finished in 2nd or 3rd place. That one being Aston F1, winning the first season before leaving to race in the top league. Natty wide again at the hairpin, struggling for grip on those medium compound tyres whilst the softs continue to work on the Porsche. Natty saw enough at the back of that Porsche in Brands Hatch, so it's now time for Tiger to see the back of that McLaren, and here's what it looks like riding on board with the Porsche. Natty hugging every apex he can to stop that Porsche from getting through. Let's continue to ride on board, because we might see a move up the hill in towards the final 2 corners. 13 and 14, Natty defensive to the inside, parking his car in the middle of the circuit, not allowing Tiger any way through, although he's got a good run through the final corner. This could be it. Immediately Natty pulls over to the left hand side of the circuit, waving to his mechanics on the pit board. Which way does Tiger go? Inside, outside, right or left? It's gone to the left, right of the screen, down the inside. It's gone, interestingly, both have lifted off quite a lot in towards the first corner. Now they're going to go side by side through the chicane. Tiger with the inside line. Natty's going to try and set himself up for the move. Oh, but he's taken a roller curve, and that's unsettled the car on the exit of turn 3. That's really going to cost him, not only in his hunt to get back up into 2nd place, but his defence against Piero, who's already alongside, going in towards the hairpin. Late on the brakes for the Frenchman, later for the McLaren, who's gone wide, down in towards the hairpin, but will get the drive on the exit, but not the drive he needs. Piero up into 3rd, Natty down to 4th place. Was it a mistake going onto the medium compound tyres? Should he have picked for the softs? What if is the question, but you know, this or that, we'll never know. Play Dutchies into the pits off of the soft compound tyres that have pretty much punctured on lap 25. You might see Tiger, Piero and Natty also boxing at the end of this lap to take a set of the soft tyre compounds, set of the soft tyres to the end. Seeing as they have already used 2 different tyre compounds, Piero stays out for another lap. Being the softs and the intermediates, Natty using 3 different tyre compounds, the softs, the mediums and the inters. Doesn't feel like he could have taken the soft to lap 25 after it stopped raining. Comes into the pits just behind Tiger Assassin. What about Toussaint? Also on those medium compound tyres, staying out for another lap. Cameron Kaboom following the Mercedes in front. That's what has happened to Aston. He's pitted for a set of the soft compound tyres. One even on those hards, setting mid 133s. Dutchy on the soft, setting 131s. Only 2 seconds, only 2.5 seconds separating the softs and the hards. I say only, actually, that is probably the delta between the two tyre compounds. When you think about it, that's incredible. 2.5 seconds a lap. It's about 20 seconds for a pit stop. So in 4 laps time, 4 or 5 laps time, if you're on the softs, you're already a pit stop ahead of drivers on the hards. Piero decided to stay out for another lap on those soft compound tyres, lap 26 of 36. Dutchy crosses the line, there'll be 10 laps to go. Tiger now ahead of his teammates, Hussein. I don't think the move was particularly thought by Hussein, might have been an orchestrated pass. Piero now into the pits, going to do the final 10 laps on a set of the red striped soft compound tyres. We'll probably see Hussein follow him in as well. Cameron Kaboom, Natty off the track. You see the droppage off the circuit as well. That's quite deadly around this circuit. There's a lot of drop off between the curb and the track. Piero out of the pits, side by side with the closing Tiger Assassin, who swoops around the outside the McLaren up into second place. Tiger now running in second place, the probably best position thus far this season after struggling for pace in the Porsche. His best finish was in Brands Hatch when he finished 4th place. But since then he's only finished in the points 2 other times. 2 other times, although he wasn't here for the last race. We've got a nice battle forming for second place between Piero and Tiger Assassin. Now just dropping off the back of these two, maybe a second and a half, separating the two McLarens. Black Country most up into 5th place, but is yet to make a pit stop. Cameron Kaboom is wide off the track down at the hairpin, maybe being caught out by this slight increase in the wind speed. Down towards that corner. Borny now ahead of Wolfie, who's down to 8th place. Ashton in 10th on those fresh soft compound tyres. Maybe Wolfie's trying to take those softs all the way to the end. It's going to be unlikely and tough as we have our first driver to be lapped Wiggly style. Now I think for him, probably pitted a little bit too late off of those intermediate tyres and just got caught out by the changeable conditions. It is the first time that we've had dynamic weather and changeable conditions in the league this season. So it's a learning curve for all 13 drivers and anyone watching who also fancies themselves against these hot running drivers. Now to the inside, down in towards turn 1. Cameron Kaboom trying to go for the switchback move, but Toussaint's got the apex covered, moves up into 6th place, a net 5th place. Black Country Mush is yet to make a pit stop. His fuel lights flashing, his tyres are red, so that's often a recipe for a scheduled pit stop. Bon Evil off of the hard compound tyres. He's had enough of those tyres. We'll have to wait and see what tyres he goes on to finish the final 9 laps of this motor race. Aston now promoted up into 10th place as the battle played Dutchy. But you didn't think you'd be saying this after Sardinia. Bon Evil's been lapped by Play Dutchy after 29 laps at Spa, Dragon Trail Gardens. Led the championship for 2 rounds in between the Red Bull Ring and Spa during Brands Hatch and Sardinia, but has recently been taken over once again by Play Dutchy. Let's have a look at the standings actually. Going into this race, Play Dutchy on 115 points, 20 points clear of his nearest competitor, Piero, who is second place in this race. Bonnie will 4 points off Piero and will continue to drop points as he's down in 10th place, only scoring 2 points in his battle with Wiggly Style. Toussaint in 4th place in the standings on 51 points, 5th in the race, ahead of his nearest rival Cameron Kaboom, interestingly, who's 5 points behind. So if it finishes as it is, with Toussaint defending in 5th place, not much of a defence. That was a late swerve to the inside, but I thought that was going to be a late lunge. But Cameron Kaboom backing out of it, trying to put Toussaint under pressure in their battle for 4th place. Natty running in a solid 4th place in this race, 7th in the championship, about 10 points behind Cameron Kaboom. So scoring more points than the cars behind him ahead of him in the championship. It's going to be a really nice close battle in the midfield between Bonnie and Piero, Toussaint, Cameron, Natty as well. Dan Schneider's not here tonight, but is ahead of Natty and behind Cameron in the championship. So it could lead to a really spicy and entertaining final half of the season. This is round number 6 of 13, so we are at the halfway phase of the season when we finish lap 36. Before we go to the final European race of the season for the Swiss Grand Prix. We are very eco-friendly with our track selection this season. We have the first 6 races all in Europe. First 7, all in Europe. Going from Austria to Italy to the UK to Belgium, Germany, Croatia, and then Switzerland. And then take a trip over to America for Mount Panorama before an American triple header and then a double header to see out the season finales at Suzuka and Fuji. What an end to the season we have, and what a calendar. So many good tracks on this calendar, I must say. And it's a shame that we are leaving Europe for the Asian region, the Asian and American, technically oceanic as well. Cameron Kaboom in the chat saying he's really looking forward to Mount Panorama, which takes place in 3 weeks' time. Obviously next week we have the last sprint race of the season down in Deep Forest Raceway, and then we have a break week before we travel to Australia for Mount Panorama. Speaking of, I think it's only right that we start spectating the driver who has a 100% win record at that track, the Mount King, as he's been referred to in the last couple of seasons, with his first win at that track. We'll look to try and make it 4 from 4 in a few weeks' time. For those wondering why the stream is actually being filmed at 10:30 here in the UK and not the next day, is because I'm off to Silverstone to watch the British GT, so I won't be here for the weekend, and I don't know when the stream would get done otherwise, so it's best to get it done now, out the way, and completely screw my throat over before I start screaming at trackside. We might not have an overtake for position, but we're going to have one anyway on track, actually taking air as he goes for a move down the inside of Wolfie in the battle for bragging rights in this race. Side by side contact between the two. Controversial scenes between the championship leader and Wolfie, who's going to try and hold it around the outside with 2 punches to the front tyres. Toussaint defending the inside line from Cameron Kaboom, who's ran wide. You can see the dip off the track over the white line. Does he think he's left enough room? We'll have to find out. Gaining and gaining. That Mercedes is getting closer, but lifts off and backs out of the move going into the turn 1. You can hear it in his throttle application. Riding on board with the Lexus driver. Where is Cameron in the championship? I've already forgotten. He's like 5th or something, I think. They're running 5th in the drivers Him and Wiggly Star running 4th in constructors, 64 points, 2 points out of Dan Schneider and the Doctor. Let's just keep an eye on this battle as Warpy is now finally into the pit lane. Five laps to go here in Croatia. We've got a car in the pit lane. It's Body Evil 99 refusing to change tyres and is out of the Croatian Grand Prix. Will take no further part, it seems, and we'll see the duration of the race sat in the pit lane. Whether that counts as actually finishing the race will have to be debated about, actually. That is a point being raised. We'll just have to wait and see if he does cross the line at the end and take the checkered flag. All for 1 point, although that 1 point may be a crucial point later on in the season. We just don't know. Meanwhile, let's run through the grid. Black Country Mush up into 7th place ahead of Aston F1. He's got the jump on Wiggly Star and Walkby, who left it late for his pit stop, thought he could go to the end. Running in 10th place and wide off the track in the grass and round again in this race. But a rather nicely executed 360 sees him facing back in the right direction and can get on with the race just as he left off. Looks like Piero's just doing enough to stay ahead of Tiger, who's keeping that gap to Natty at about 2-3 seconds. The Brit is unable to close the gap down. You can see the heat wave actually on the track. It is very sunny and very bright here in Croatia after the rain has passed over the circuit, running on a dry track for the last 20 odd laps now. But it's nice to see some rain and some changeable conditions for what was it, 8 laps of rain, I think. So might not be as long as some drivers were hoping for. It might have been longer than drivers were hoping for, but hey, it's weather. You cannot control, well, you can control the weather in the game, but you know, in real life it might rain for 8 laps, it might rain for 80 laps. It might rain, it might stop, and it might rain again, it might stop again. It can be as unpredictable as this championship. And as these races tick on one by one, I don't know where I'm going with this actually, so I'm just going to stop there before there's a long awkward silence. Thank you everyone who is tuning into the stream. I hope you are enjoying the close action-packed racing that these drivers provide week in, week out. The standings are definitely looking really close between individual drivers. We have different rivalries forming on the circuit. You could say one's between Tiger and Natty. That McLaren driver is probably sick of seeing the back of that Porsche, albeit from some distance now. Well, I think it's fair, whilst we have no particularly on-track battles, to give everyone a fair amount of screen time for the final couple of laps of this race. It's only fair that everyone gets, no one gets left out in these races. I want everyone to try and feel as included as they can. I don't mean this in a really harsh way, but when you have a grid of whether it be 10, 12 or 16 drivers, there will be someone who finishes in that 16th place. So you've got to give credit and recognition for those drivers who continue to stay with us, even if they may not be, the quickest. I don't really care. As long as you're clean, get on in here. We've got some spaces opened up now after a few drivers have got other commitments maybe, decide to drop out after the first few races of the season. Just send me a message, we'll get you on the grid. Take Black Country Mush for instance, running on 7th place. He's got about 20 seconds to Cameron in front, about 10 seconds, 15 seconds to Aston behind. But he doesn't quit, he keeps going week in, week out. Same with these guys. I mean, look at Wolfie, he spanned maybe 4-5 times in this race, but he keeps going, running in 10th place, continuing to improve, setting personal best on those soft compound tyres. But it's also that time of the race that I've got quite familiar with over the years of doing this. Commentating on this GT7 League has taught me one thing, and it's how to do an outro to a race. Because, well, Play Dutchy didn't start on pole position, started down in 4th place, but executed the wet weather runnings perfectly, pitting for the inters at the right time, pitting for dries at the right time, pitting for the right dry compound tyres. Adrift through the final corner, he weaves up to the line. Play Dutchy wins the Croatian Grand Prix here in Dragon Trail Gardens. Makes it 4 from 6. No. Yes, no. 5 from 6. And he wins the Croatian Grand Prix. Apologies about the confusion. Absolutely dominant race from the Dutchman. 4-time GT champion. This could be close between Piero and Tiger, but it's the Frenchman in the McLaren who beats the Brit in the Porsche. Piero in second takes another podium. Congrats to Tiger for his first podium of the season in 3rd place. Natty just behind in 4th place. Couldn't quite keep up with the 2 cars in front, but gave it his best, especially in the wet. Toussaint, he's had a couple of spins this race, not the race he would have hoped for, but he's recovered nicely up into 5th place ahead of Cameron Kaboom, who finishes in 6th, and Black Country Mush is going to finish in 7th place. So before the race ends, Aston in 8th ahead of Wiggly in 9th, and Wolfie down in 10th place. Bon Evil technically hasn't taken the checkered flag and sits in the pits. Whether that'll count as a DNF, I'll have to actually think about that, because it's not technically in our rulebook. And I'm sure there might be a few comments after the race about that. But I will make sure to make the appropriate and right decision whether to award points. Don't you worry about that. So, Bon Evil is in 11th place, but technically hasn't finished the race, so we'll say is in 11th place for now. Oh, not photo mode. Let's get rid of the UI at the bottom. Wolfie in 10th place, struggled in the changing conditions, made a few mistakes, and unfortunately only down in 10th place, but kept going, kept persevering. All a learning curve for the future. Ahead of him in the race, finished Wiggly Style after a horrific, what's the word? Not horrific. Misjudge the changeable conditions and stuck it out on the inters for a little bit too long, and I think made a mistake at turn 4 as well. But he finishes just behind Aston F1, who has beaten Wolfie in this race. Black Country Mush, I think his best finish of the season in 7th place. Cameron Kaboom gave it his all in his attempt to beat Toussaint, but he finishes in 6th place behind the 2-time GT champion, who made 2 mistakes, one at turn 11, one at turn 13 after dipping wheels, his slicks onto the wet curb, which forced his car into a spin in the barrier. Natty, after starting in 6th, worked his way up into 4th place after challenging for 2nd place whilst in the wet conditions. Showed great pace in the race, actually, if I do say so myself. Not to toot my own horn or anything, no, I'm joking. But it was fun driving in the wet, I must give it that. Tiger finishing in 3rd place, his first podium of the season, but adds another one to his collection, behind Piero in 2nd place. These two having a nice battle and closed down the McLaren on those soft stints. But it is this guy, Play Dutchy, who's going to have a lot of photos of himself at the end of the season. Let's go for a nice front camera angle of that Porsche. Look at that danger on the front, because that's what he brings to the grid. Danger. So there you have it. Play Dutchy wins here in Croatia, round number 6 of season 7. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and if you did enjoy it and you want to take part, send me a message on PlayStation or Discord. Xstrategy is all the information you should need. And yeah, join our Discord, get involved, chat with a few drivers. Make sure to join us next week for the final sprint race of the season, the final European race of the season at Deep Forest Raceway. Can Dutchy maintain his winning streak and make it 4 from 4? Or will we have a different race winner? Only Bonnie and Dutchy have won races this season. Make sure to find out. Stay tuned next week for the Swiss Grand Prix. I've been Xstrategy. It's been a pleasure commentating, and once again, I'll see you in the commentary box and on the grid in Deep Forest. Goodbye.